Welcome back to another edition of Root to Rising podcast. I'm your host, Christine Hummel, and I am privileged again with another special guest, Hannah, who's going to join us today and talk us through about her evolution and her rebuild and provide some interesting stories that we can share with other women to understand how we can continue to evolve. So Hannah, before we get started, I'm going to throw it to you to introduce yourself and what your personal brand is.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Hannah. I am a mom of two boys. I'm a single mom of two boys. I I work full time. I do all the things. I live in a part of the country that I'm not originally from, so there was some like evolution in that, as Christine had said. I really just kind of my message to bring to people is there's beauty in the rebuild. I've been in a lot of different seasons of my life. There's been pits and peaks in all of them, but I like to focus on the good. I'm a very optimistic person. I'm excited just to share a little bit more about that.
So, I'm going to spend a minute. I don't usually do this, but the way Hannah and I met was actually via TikTok. And I saw Hannah's TikTok video. And Hannah, I'm going to ask you to describe that video here in a minute. And I was just moved by how vulnerable she was in terms of what she was sharing and how transparent she was. And then a lot of responses that I think you received from other women going through a similar experience. I mean, I wasn't surprised because I think more people, if we talked about it, probably would have better conversations and evolutions of ourselves. But maybe can you describe the TikTok that I saw when I reached out?
Yes, absolutely. So this TikTok has been it blew up, and the response that I've gotten from it is amazing. There's always some not so amazing comments, but the
Always.
majority of the comments are amazing, and it's just a reminder that we are not alone. So basically, I got divorced 4 years ago, and as you're going through that whole journey, you're learning things about yourself, you're learning things about other people, but then after that, you're also still learning. 4 years later, I'm still looking back and reflecting on things that I'm like, "Oh, maybe I didn't see as clearly then," or, things to look out for in the future of just the way that I wanna live my life. So what the to kind of sum up what the TikTok was we're starting on this, 10 out of 10 scale. So basically saying that, I was a 10 out of 10 wife, and that's not me being like, "Hey, guys, I am so perfect," but it's just it was kind of just like the trend that I was following. So it's like you're starting as a 10 out of 10, and when people are taking things away from you, whether that's intentional or not intentional, or rating is going down. Basically, for example, one of them was for my story, I started, doing things that I enjoyed. My rating went down to, a 9 out of 10 because, I was seen as selfish, and I was like, "Wait, but, I wasn't being intentionally selfish, but the view of me by another person was seen as selfish." That was one of them. You know, when you are put in this place and you want to use your voice again, that's another rating down. So it went from the 10 out of 10, and then it went down to the 1 out of 10 or 0 out of 10. And then when you are at that place, what do you do then? Do you continue, do you sit in that, or do you evolve to the next? So it was basically me being from a 10 out of 10 wife to a 0 out of 10, and then rebuilding myself into that 10 out of 10 version that looks a lot different than the 10 out of 10 wife. So obviously that breaking point at the 0 was me going through a divorce, which was a huge milestone in my life. And that's kind of where I'm at now. It's been 4 years and the rebuild from there. But if you
Well,
want
who
to
was
talk
doing?
about some of the, go ahead.
Yeah, who was doing the rating? Yourself?
So it's funny because people are like, "Are you putting those, ratings on yourself?" I had, close friends of mine to be like, "Well, you were never a 0 out of 10,
Yeah.
but you sometimes you're made to feel a certain
Yeah.
way." And that's not, it's hard, right? This could be interpreted so many ways, but it's not someone literally telling me "Okay, today, now you're a 0. You don't have value today, or you have more value, today than you did yesterday because of your actions or how you're carrying yourself or whatever." But yeah, I guess it's you're made to feel a certain way. So if you're made to feel low, that person is obviously not putting you on this pedestal, giving you this praise. So it's kind of like knocking down the notches as you go.
So when you were to go back a little bit in time, when you were in high school or college, the expectations you had for yourself, or maybe even the goals that you had for yourself, I mean, was it to be a wife, to be a mom, to have a career? what were those goals? And then, you did get married. Did they change immediately? Did the expectations change? Walk us through a little bit of that.
Yeah, so I mean, starting in high school, I knew that I wanted to be a mom and a wife. I didn't know exactly how that looked at. I wasn't one of those girls sitting there like making a like collage of like what their wedding day was going to look like. I wasn't like picking out my dress, but I had this vision that like I guess I didn't think about it so much because I just knew that one day that would like be where I ended up. So my goal kind of back then was to just, go to college, you know, get a job, like the basic things that we're all just kind of like
Yep.
told that that's the next step. So I did those things. I played soccer, so that gave me an opportunity to go play soccer in college. That took me to another state. That led me to meet my now ex-husband. So like all those little things like also weren't in my collage of life, but
Yep.
they happened. And like I said, those were all like little seasons and there was like beautiful, beautiful moments in that. And they brought me my two kids. But then you're at another place and this is what you're not thinking about when you're in high school. I wasn't thinking about like, so if I do all those things and then I get to a point and like all of a sudden, like for what? Like nothing worked out. Like I have to start over. Like you have to make a whole new plan. Like that's so scary. But that is where I found myself.
How did you know, at a point in time when you made the decision to get married? And I agree, by the way, with your comments. Like, I don't think anyone has their collage picked out. And, the fact that you went to play soccer and went to a different state and met this person, like, it's just part of our journey. There's no right path or no, I think it just kind of it's evolving as we go. But, when you were married, when did you start feeling different about like who you were in that relationship and what made you actually start making different decisions in terms of realizing that this is not how I want to feel or this is not who I want to be.
Yeah, exactly. So like the rating going down, like those feelings starting to set in a little bit. It was a really hard realization. And then once there's kids involved with it too, it makes it obviously so much harder. And I started thinking to myself, like, okay, like the thoughts started happening. And then I would be like, well, like, what's the alternative? Like, or just like stick it out.
Mhm.
Like, kids need two parents in the same home, or all of those things that kind of, like, justified staying in a marriage even though, like, my gut knew that it wasn't where I was supposed to be, and then I kind of started thinking, like, "Okay, like, well, this is gonna happen," this meaning, like, the divorce, but I just, like, I don't know when, and I don't know how, and what will that look like? I don't know if it's gonna be now, or I don't know if it's gonna be in 5 years, or I don't know if it's gonna be when my kids go away to college, but then I'm like, when my kids go away to college and I like, if we stayed for the kids, like, then what? Then we're just gonna be like, we're just gonna sit in a house and not like each other then? And then, like, all this time has gone by? So
Mm.
that started, like there was a lot comes into play, like, during that, all in your own brain, so you're like, "Ah, what do I do?" But yeah, like, it at the end of the day, it's just a feeling of, like, this is not the right space for me. I don't feel completely myself. I don't feel like I'm being, like, supported to be myself. If I'm not, like, behaving this certain way, it's more of like a, "What's wrong with you?" rather than, like, a support from your partner that you would think that you had. So all of those things kind of snowballed into a big decision.
When you were dating in that relationship, did you have a gut feeling that it wasn't right, but you kind of felt expectations to move forward? Or did the gut feeling that it wasn't right happen after you were married for a bit? And if so, what changed?
Yeah, so full disclosure, we had children before we got married. So
Hmm.
there was, I don't want to say that it was circumstantial. Like I did love this person, but you do look back and think like if it wasn't for a child coming into this world, like would we have really been each other's person or did we think that we were doing the right thing and like try to make this work and like now we have a family unit. But to go back to like the dating, there was no huge red flags. I just don't think we got to know each other to fully, like, build the foundation that you need to spend your life together before life was thrown at us.
So when you started feeling, your gut instinct after you got married, you started feeling like this wasn't right and you deserved more. A lot of people, a lot of women probably feel, I don't want to say that they're stuck, but it's a pretty
Mhm.
hard place to get out of. To your point, you have kids, there's financial implications. there's perceptions, there's people's opinion, there's all the things, right? And so a lot of women have a choice to either stay in it and to continue on, or for women like yourself, you kind of rose above it and said, I deserve more and different. So how did you get that to that point? How did you get that confidence? How did you come to terms that you were strong enough to say, I am going to make a change for myself and start that journey?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that has been a lot of the questions that I've been getting, like, on
Yep.
like, in my TikTok DMs and stuff, like, p and it's hard I can't answer this, like, for everyone else, like, I can't answer it for myself, but everyone's situation is so different. The financial part of it is huge, like, some of us, like, are stay-at-home moms, and, like, how do you, like, then leave that relationship,
Yep.
um, and support yourself and your kids? But for me, I just was kind of the one of the biggest hesitations was like, I can't get divorced. Like, I can't imagine not seeing my kids every single day. Like, that is not okay with me. So that was like the initial. And then it went from that to me realizing, like, what good is it if my kids see me every single day? Like, if I'm not, like, filling my own cup and if I'm not fulfilled and if I'm not happy and if I'm, like, walking through this world with this, like, weird, like, resentment or, like, I don't know, I'd rather my kids, like, see me and, like, be so intentional with our time and, like, be like, "I have a happy mom." Like, I don't think they're walking around the streets being like, "I have a happy mom," but, like, the way that we flow through life together is happy and it's carefree and we're able to, like, I mean, and I still see them basically every day, but yeah, it just had to be a huge, like, leap of faith, and I don't know how I even got the courage to do it. It just was like, "This is what's happening next," and you figure it out. Like, I changed, like, my career, I changed because I have to be available for them, so, like, I was very lucky to get a job that I can work remote, and if the school calls, I can go get them. Like, I'm the default parent in everything, so it's like you have to make those adjustments too.
So, what would you say to a woman that's kind of sitting in a marriage having these thoughts, or what have you responded to on your TikTok when people DM you? I don't want to say you make it sound simple, but you make it sound simple. Like, what should they be thinking about, or what questions are they asking themselves? So, they should be reaching out to other people for support. Like, what advice would you give women that are kind of where you were at that point?
Yeah, I don't ever want it to seem like I'm coming across like, "You guys had a bad day, you had an argument, like, you should get divorced." I'm
Yep.
not advocating for divorce, but I am absolutely advocating for being happy and having
Yep.
a happy, healthy family, and sometimes that just looks like 2 parents in 2 separate homes. But so, like, advice that I would give is just, like, you have to kind of make a pros and cons list. Situations I know that are for me and for a lot of women, they'd be like, absolutely, like, if you're getting abused, if like anything
Yep.
like that, it's like we have like that's not gonna change. You have to like get out of that relationship for yourself and your kids. I mean, it can get dark. But like for me, I'm so happy to say like there wasn't any of that. It was just two people who weren't compatible. But that's why it's hard to sit and say like this is your route or this is your route. If you can do it and you can figure it out, if you have family like support, like even to live with like while you're going through this transition, like that would be so helpful. I didn't have that, but like I said, like I had to figure out a new career path to be able to financially support myself and my kids. But I would really, really like weigh your options and like remember that your own happiness is never selfish.
Yeah, and I think going back to what you said previously, you thought about the future when your kids were older and then you had retirement and then you've
Mhm.
waited and waited and you've kind of quote unquote stuck it out, right, until your kids graduate or move out and then you're sitting with this other person and you're not happy. So, part of the reason I created this podcast was women should focus on themselves.
Mhm.
Some people are going to say it sounds selfish, but it's not. Everyone individually should be happy first before they're with someone else to make them happier. Because if you're not individually happy, covering it up with a marriage or with kids, foundationally, you're still not going to be happy. So, like
Yeah.
to your point, you have to fill your cup, whatever you need. And that's different for every woman in every situation. But you have to be fulfilled individually and you have to figure that out for yourself. And then you're going to give yourself to others. And my question to you is, are you I don't want to say better mom because that it doesn't mean that you were a bad mom,
Right.
but are you a different mom today being divorced in a separate unit? from your ex-husband? Like, do you show up better for your kids?
Feel like I can confidently say yes. Like I said before, like just the way my kids see me move through the world now. I think that I feel lighter, so I'm happier and I pour more
Yeah.
happiness into them. Not like that if I was and not saying every day is sunshine and rainbows, but like it's okay for them to see me have a hard day now
Yeah.
too, but then like still do what I need to do. And like on my hard days, my kids still know that they're so loved. And not that they didn't before, but if I was walking around on eggshells before and my kids were young when we got divorced, they were 7 and 3, and now they're 7 and 11. So it's a little bit different now. They would probably be a little more receptive to maybe like my body language or things like that. But they know that like, yeah, I'm not walking on eggshells. So like they don't need to. I'm able to like have these conversations with them and let them know that they can like speak openly to me. And it's like, I felt like I had a partner who I couldn't really do that with, so I didn't wanna teach them that, you know?
So, I think you go back to how you perceived yourself too, like your rating. Like, I think
Yeah,
your rating was probably reflective of you being happy and finding your happiness and evolving into your new person. So that makes sense that you feel lighter now,
mhm,
after the fact, and you're able to be more intentional with your kids. And so, again, back to my point earlier is if everyone individually is more intentional about their own happiness, you're lighter. You can give more back to your kids or to your
mhm.
partner when you choose to and how you choose to, right?
Yeah, and when you have a partner too, like, you should want those same things for them, like, you should
Yep.
want each other to, like, grow and, like, not every season of life is gonna be the same thing, but it's like, if you hit this road where you're not growing together or you're getting looked at in, like, this negative light from growing
Yep.
and that person can't grow with you, then, like, those are
Yep.
things to evaluate too, but, like, looking forward, like, I would love to get, like, be married. I, like, love the idea of marriage still. I'm not, like, a cynic. I love, but when that comes for me, like, I know I want someone who, like, wants to grow and wants to learn more and wants to experience life and wants to have, like, a life of their own and then come home and, like, do life together. I think that's, like, a positive thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think marriage is you want a partner to share happiness that makes you better, that supports you. I think the definition of why we want marriage should probably be a little bit redefined, for
Yeah.
women, so that we are okay with doing things for ourselves and not having to fulfill all these expectations for others. And then you find that partner, hopefully, that is your equal, and supports you and makes you a better person, to your comment.
Mhm.
So before we go into a little bit of how and what you've done to actually help rebuild, or evolve yourself, I want to go back to the rating because I do think that's part of your evolution of why you transitioned. And so, can you just walk us all through the different parts of the rating of how they went down, and maybe previously when you went into the relationship or the marriage, what those rating expectations were, like the definition behind good wife, and then what did they change when the rating went down? So kind of compare your expectations going into that rating and then what they were when they were decreasing.
Yeah, so, like, start from the 10 and kinda go down? I don't
What
remember
made
what
it a 10?
each yeah, I don't remember, like, what each like, I wrote for each
Yeah.
specific one, but, like, as a whole, yeah. Yeah, like, what made it a 10? And like I said before, like, I was like, some people the reel that I posted on, you saw the TikTok one? The one that
Yeah.
was on Instagram got, like it went up like, blew up even more, and that was, like
Wow.
I like the TikTok girlies because everyone was so positive, like, there was more negativity, not from
Hmm.
women, from men on the Instagram one, but
Hmm.
they're like, "Oh, so, like, you said you were perfect, so and he wasn't, so you just left." I was like, that seems like a
Ah.
reach to me. I wasn't saying that at all. Like I said earlier, like, I'm not saying, like, I was this perfect wife, but, like,
Right.
I liked being a wife. Like, that's why it's like, I don't even, like, wanna date right now. I don't know how to be a girlfriend. Like, I know how to be a wife, and I do think I did a good job at it. Like, I think what, like, made in my mind for the 10 rating is, like, you're taking good care of your kids. I sacrificed so much for my family unit, you know? like I said before, like, we're living in, like, hometown, like, he grew up here. I'm from California, the other side of the country, so, like, I don't have my friends and my family here, so I really started like, I sacrificed that to, like, commit to being a wife and a mom. And I think, like, that just in general is huge. I always told him, like, when I was having a hard day, I'm like, "Can you just, like, try to put yourself, like, in my shoes and, like, just" I'm trying to express how I'm feeling, but, like, it wasn't being received because he couldn't just, like, have that, like, little, like, empathy for me, I guess.
Hmm.
But yeah, so basically just, like, the sacrifice that I made to be a mom. I liked the idea of kind of the first of all, I do hate, like, the full-on gender roles, but I did like the idea of like, being like, if I wasn't working that day, like, I like to, like, make dinner and sit down together and,
Yep.
like, take care of the house and do things together. I was always trying to, like, get together with, like, the elders in his family too to, like, make sure they saw the kids, and I just felt like
Yep.
I was prioritizing our family a lot, and then I think that the he got very used to that wife that when
Mm.
I started like, I would say, like, 2 years postpartum with my youngest, I that's when I was like, "You know what? Like, I just, like, breastfed babies for a lot of years. It just, like not that I'm, like, leaving them in the dust now, like, but they don't need me
Yep.
as much, like, physically." And that's when I kind of started being like I joined a new gym. I started building my community here because I'm like, I can't keep complaining about these things if I
Hmm.
don't do something about it.
Right.
I'm gonna be the one to, like, makes this change, and if this is an area of my life that I'm craving, then, like, okay, go outside, find it. So I did that, and I still did all the other things. But that is when the ratings started to drop. That's when I started becoming, like, selfish. That's when I couldn't really, like, express my feelings as much because he was having a hard time understanding, like, why I needed these things, and I was like,
Hmm.
"I literally, like, cried to you for years that this was a part of my life that I felt like was lacking and I was craving." So it's not like I just got up one day and was like, "I need community, like, I'm out of here." I'm like, "No, like, I've said this from day 1." And mind you, the community is like going and running on treadmill. Like, I think there's worse things. But yeah, like
Seriously.
that I would say that is probably like
Um,
the biggest example, and then things snowballed from that. But it was, I guess, me needing like a little bit more from him and from like the outside world.
so, do you think that you had the expectations of being a wife in terms of the traditional way of it, right? Like you have to do all, and because I think a lot of women do that. They do all the things for their family. They make sure they prioritize family events, the weekends,
Mhm.
all the parties, keeping the family unit together, for the sake of the kids and all the things we want to teach them. Do you think you had expectations going into the marriage, then figuring out that that maybe wasn't enough for you and your expectations changed because you had needs individually that weren't being met? And it's interesting because you were an athlete, you were a soccer player. So I mean, obviously you had these individual goals for yourself. You were fit before, like if you want to keep on the exercise analogy, right? So
Yeah.
you had almost, it sounds like to me, and I don't know you that well, but you had those individual goals for yourself. So do you think the expectations of being the wife in marriage were more from just our cultural norms, that you felt like that's what you had to do and prioritize, and your individual happiness and goals kind of went by the wayside for a hot minute until you realized it and then you kind of came back to it?
I think there's so much pressure from society that it like even like you see it so much online too, like hot mess moms are like tired or like the kids are crazy and like it's fine because like you're the mom, so it's you just do it. And
Yep.
like I would never not do it, but we are like I think we're programmed from a young age probably.
Yep.
Even like you see little girls like with the like carriers with their baby in it and it's adorable, but like they're already being programmed to be moms.
Right. Correct.
And, like, I would never trade being a mom for literally anything, like, I think it's the best thing that I've ever done and continue to do, but the pressure that comes with it that tells you, like, subconsciously or consciously, like, to sacrifice everything else, I think is something that probably needs to
Yep.
change a little bit.
I agree, and it's interesting though, because like you feel guilty about it. Like if you do something
Yeah,
for yourself, you feel selfish, but it's we're the ones that create the guilt, right? We're the ones that are making the perception of ourselves, and your rating is going down because that's how you perceive yourself.
yeah,
So I agree with you that how we support women into whatever role they want. And not saying that if you don't want to be a full-time mom, that's not the message, is not to do that. But it's again to make sure you're doing things for yourself individually, because you can't be a full-time mom forever, because your kids eventually you want to, have them be independent people and they're going to move on to
Right.
their lives. And at that point in time, you still have to know what you're going to do individually to make yourself happy. Now it was an interesting compare and contrast. And I guess the message for younger generation women would not only just to make sure that you're going with your own goals and your motivators, and that doesn't have to go by the wayside if you
Mhm.
choose to get married, still and prioritize time and find that partner that allows you to prioritize individual time for yourself. If you're working and you're a mom and doing all the things, it doesn't matter. Your partner should support you in that role.
Yeah, and sometimes it is gonna take, like, having that conversation with your
Yep,
partner because, like, we can't expect them to be mind readers too, but if you
that's right.
have, obviously, like, get to know each other and build, like, a very strong foundation, and then you would like, think that you know each other well enough, but, like, seasons are going to
Yep,
change and feelings are gonna change, and I'm not saying, like, you're going to change, like, I think that you're always your true self at your
yep,
core, but, like,
yep,
you could have you could form different interests, you could
yep,
wanna try a new hobby, you could wanna, like, go back to school, and you could wanna, like, reroute your whole career, and, like, that's fine, but, like, are you with a partner who's going to support that? And, like, vice versa, like, if your partner wants to do that.
yep. Allow yourself to evolve. Allow yourself the
Mhm.
grace. It's going to be as you grow and you age and you have different experience. Allow yourself to grow and have a partner that supports you. So, just talking through the different expectations you had, you mentioned that you didn't have the family support. Was there more that was more just logistically because you were on the other side of the country, or maybe talk through people, that you did have support from or you didn't have support from. Maybe they felt like, hey, you should stick it out, kind of judgments that you got or support that you got, and talk us through that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I come from my mom is one of 8 and all married, all no divorce. Like, so I'm not like there was this pressure on me too, I think subconsciously, like, we don't get divorced, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like the first one from and like same on his side, like no divorce, but it's definitely a different generation where I think people back then everyone stays if you choose to stay together, whether you want to or not. Like, it's all based on your guys' own, like, life's circumstances and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
but I do feel like my mom never came and said, like, "You can't get divorced," like, that would be a shame, like, that would be embarrassing. She's actually, like, my for sure number 1 supporter, but so conversations that I had with her, she would kind of just tell me like, "Well, what's the alternative?" You know? And I
Mm,
do think that if we lived in the same state, she would've been like, "Pack your bags," and like, but I can't pack my bags from New York and like
yep,
take my kids to California. But I think there would've that physical support, I think, would have been a little bit stronger, obviously, like location wise. But yeah, she encouraged me to try to stay. And then when it got to the point that it was clear that that wasn't going to happen, she was like, "All right, what do we need to do?" So I did,
that's
like, I
awesome.
guess to answer the question, like, I did have this. No one was ever telling me not to.
What about your friends? Did your friends support you?
Yeah, my friends are amazing. And that was one of the things I do stay in touch with my California friends like a lot. Like, we've grown up together since we were so little. And I got to a point with one of my friends, we were talking on the phone, and I was just kind of venting about, like, the situation, and then I was like, "Wait, I every time we talk, like, every time we catch up, I'm saying the same thing, like,
Thing.
that's my fault." It's
Yeah,
the same thing with, like, I said, like,
yeah,
"If you want community, go get it." I'm like, "But I'm choosing to stay
yeah.
here and, like, keep tolerating this," and, like, now I sound like a broken record, like, she's gotta be bored of this story, she's heard it 16 times in this month. But sometimes it just takes, like, hearing yourself
Yep,
say it again, like, "Wait, this it's just nothing is changing." So they, like, they were all, like, very supportive. I felt like they had my back, from a distance. I didn't have, like, as many close friends here, but the ones that I did were, like, literally amazing. And now I could with
that's
the whole
awesome.
community thing, like, I feel like I have 10 people right now that I could call if I needed
That's
something,
awesome.
and they would be at my door, yeah.
Women are pretty amazing when we share vulnerable stories and transparent with one another. Like we do kind of support each other no matter what. And it's the village automatically that comes around you when there's a tough situation. That challenge would be for more women actually to be transparent and
Yeah.
when someone says, "Oh, how are you doing?" You don't have to pretend everything's great and you love making bread and you love, cleaning the house every day and your kids are amazing and A+ students. Like that's not the reality we live in. I believe if people were more transparent with one another and honest and intentional and just say it how it is. Like it's hard
Mhm.
and empathize with one another, the support that women give each other is something that is irreplaceable. So I would challenge people, that listen to your TikTok or that listens to this podcast to be more intentional with one another and really listen and see what that person needs. And I know that they'll be there, but I think more women need to be honest and transparent because I think it goes back to your first comment that it doesn't feed into this perception of we have to be this perfect image all the time. And that's where the change happens when we start to have real conversations about the reality of what we're actually going through.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of just got to this point. Like, listen, it's been 4 years now, and I've shared like little glimpses of my story and like the people who know me, like obviously like know that I'm divorced and but like social media wise, like I just got to this point and there's like a lot of reflecting that's been done in these 4 years
Yep,
too. So like I said, like some of those like ratings you like look back and you're like, "Oh yeah, like that happened and that made me like not feel so good and that was a piece of the puzzle too." So like, but I'm just got to the point where I'm like, "You know what? Like share it." Like, I feel like there's beauty in putting yourself in these vulnerable situations. Like,
yep,
hundreds of women are now, like,
yep,
like, I have this, like, little platform in the corner of the internet, but it's a if I can, like, touch one person and let them know that, like, they're not
yep,
alone and, like, I will talk to you. I can share my experience. It might not look how exactly how yours is going to, but, like, I'm open to, like, having these conversations now and
yep,
just, like, letting people know that they're not alone, and our life doesn't have to look like we thought it might when we were in high
right,
school or, like, even 5 years ago, and, like, I just wanna
right.
encourage people, like, if they feel like you're stuck, like, in this situation, like, picture your life 5 years from now and, like, kind of, like, if you keep doing, like, what you're doing right now, like, are you gonna be happy with where you're at in
Mm.
5 years? And, like, if the answer is no, then, like, you probably need to, like, make some changes however that looks.
No, that's great advice, and I think it's great that women are reaching out and want to talk to someone. It
Yeah.
takes a long time to unravel all that, right? Especially if you built it up like your story, right? You started with these expectations, you followed all the rules, you did all the things. That's kind of all raveled up. It takes a long time for you to unravel that. So I think women have to be patient based on all your comments. Like it is a step by step process. It's different for everyone. It's an evolution to untangle everything, almost like you're talking about earlier, then to be able to rebuild yourself up again. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of self-reflection that happens along the way, and it's not easy, right? Like it's painful, it's hard, but at the end of it, know that you're going through the process to show up better at the end of it and to evolve to someone that you want to be at this point of your career, your motherhood, your journey, and not to feel selfish about it.
Yeah, I keep referring to these last 4 years, but you could apply it to life really, but, like, of stepping stones. Like, for example, the boys and I moved out, like, it all kind of happened, like, pretty fast, but we moved out, the 3 of us, into a one-bedroom apartment and, like, leased it for a year, and I was like but it was, like, cute and cozy and, like, happy and you know what
Yep,
I mean? Like, with the struggles of, like, the first year going through a divorce, but it was like I, like, look back on that, I'm like, "I can't imagine all 3
yeah,
of us living there now, it'd be, so insane." But, like, that was our first stepping stone, and I could do it, like, on that, and, like, now we rent a three-bedroom house, and it's like there's space for us, and it
yep,
just like, that was a stepping stone, like, my career I made a career pivot, like, that was a step and there's been, like, a stepping stone for that each year, like, it doesn't need to be all figured out, like, on
yep.
your first stepping stone, that's why it's called a stepping stone because 'cause you're gonna take a next step.
I think that's great advice. So looking back, when you started this journey, is there anything you would do differently or would have done differently to have a different outcome or a faster outcome that you would want to tell people listening to this?
It's hard when because I think these things go through our heads too, like, well, like, even, like, I'm like, "Well, what if I never moved to New York?" Like, I never would have,
Mm.
like, met him and gone through a divorce, but then it's like but then I also wouldn't, like, have my
Haven't,
children, so, like,
yep,
I don't wanna, like, take that
yep,
part away, so it's hard to like, I strongly believe that, like, everything happens for a reason, but if I was talking to my younger self or, like, the younger generation, I kinda just fall back on that. If it is, like, relationship-wise, like, build the foundation and, like, know the person fully, and then if it's, like, career wise, choose a career. If you need to switch it, like there's tons of us switching our careers, but like do something that you like. And if you don't
Yeah.
like it at the time, like if it's paying your bills, then just do it. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't want to sit at a desk every day for like 9 hours, but like I do it right now because that's what's paying my bills.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we have to think of what's the most permanent and long-term solution. And we have all these ideals and everything we're striving for. Like it goes back to the, white picket fence, right? Or keeping up
Yeah.
with the Joneses. And to your point, it's especially with the way that the society is today, we're moving so fast. It's different. It's way different from 50 years ago, 100 years ago, of why these roles were created. And to your point, we should be looking at it more as stepping stones, knowing that there's so much change that's hitting us on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. I mean, even dealing with whatever our kids are dealing with is different.
Yeah.
So allow yourself to not have to commit to that long term permanent solution. It can be piece by piece for that moment in time, what's right for you. Yes, should you still have long goals for yourself? Percent, but everything you do doesn't have to be this dramatic overthought answer and this perfect answer at that moment in time.
Yeah, because that, like, sets us up for failure in our minds too, like, if we do deviate or stray from, like, the original plan that, like, that's bad, but it doesn't have to be bad, you know?
Yep. So we're wrapping up here on time, Hannah. I'm going to ask you for any last pieces of advice for anyone that is just having a tough time of finding who they are, struggling with, decisions they need to make in their life. What piece of advice would you give them, or pieces of advice would you give them?
Yeah, I guess I would start with if you are finding yourself in a situation that you're either not happy about or is not making you feel good or you're looking for a reroute of sorts, like it's okay. And if like it's okay to feel all of the feelings that come with that. I actually encourage it. Like before, like you don't want to like make a rash decision about something. Like even if they're like negative thoughts or whatever, not the best, like feel it all. Like let it
Yep.
sit there, but then like don't stay there. Like you gotta like come out of it some way. And I truly believe that if you just like trust your gut and trust your instinct, like it's not going to lead you astray. Lean on the people around you for support. Like if you have them, I hope that you do. If not, again, it comes back to you. Like know that you are who you are at your core and like just trust yourself and be courageous. Sometimes hard decisions are really just like a big leap of faith and they can take you beautiful places. There can be bumps in the roads and it's just on to your next stepping stone.
That's great advice. So, Hannah, I want to thank you for taking the time today to talk to everyone about your journey. It sounds like you're creating a beautiful new collage in your life. So, I love that analogy earlier
Thank
on.
you.
So, again, Hannah, thank you. And as a reminder, this is the Root to Rising podcast. See you all next time.